time.
So I wake up in the morning.
Yes.
I have a cup of coffee.
Yes.
And I turn on Channel 7 News.
You're fucked.
Okay, tell me why.
Don't touch that dial, don't turn away. Don't touch that dial, don't turn away. Don't touch that dial, don't turn away. Don't touch that dial, don't turn away.
Hey guys, welcome to Good Talk Josh, episode 11. Thanks for joining me. This episode is with Jeff Latham. You've all heard me introduce him as a sponsor for every show. So I got the opportunity to sit down and talk with him for a little bit. And we had some fun times. This is a fun conversation. I won't even plug his... I'll plug his phone number. It's 425-345-4920. This guy will motivate you to do big things in your life, real estate or other. I also want to announce that I have set up the Patreon page for Good Talk Josh. Keep this podcast going and get us the equipment and software that we need to produce a better sounding podcast in the future. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, you can do it for $1 a month, or a $1 contribution first off, and like just one-time deal. It doesn't even matter. We prefer obviously the monthly subscription. That helps a lot. If you're looking to advertise, I also have some options on there for single show or monthly show contributions. So please go to patreon.com/goodtalkjosh, and I'll put the link in the show notes. And those are the only two sponsors today, and let's get on with the show. Here's Jeff.
Okay, so are we going to talk about the shitstorm?
Let's talk about the shitstorm.
Okay, so the other day I was lifting weights at the gym, and I was listening to this rapper named NF. He's like a Christian rapper, but he's kind of reminds me of Eminem. He's just really hardcore, and
I think I've seen a few of his...
Dude, he's got some good stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta listen to it. And so, he had this rap song, and the lyrics said, "Handouts create people I'm not impressed with. If you want something in life, then go out and get it." And I was like, oh, that is beautiful. So, I immediately grabbed the first part of the lyrics.
Yeah.
Handouts create lazy people I'm not impressed with. And I stuffed that on my Facebook post. And a lot of my entrepreneur buddies, you see a lot of likes, and they're like, somebody's got the balls to actually stand up and say something, right?
Yeah.
My entrepreneurs loved it. But there's a few people that just, it stung them. And I think people interpret the message based on their own beliefs and the own story that happened in their lives. And it's very easy to take something like that out of context.
Absolutely.
And so,
that's the thing about Facebook or Twitter or Instagram is there is no context. No one knows what you're thinking when you put something on there.
Yeah.
So it's something you kind of have to be aware of, and it's okay to make mistakes on there.
Yeah, and it's a weak form of communication because there's no microfacial expressions, no body language, no tonality. And depending on the mood of the person that received the message, they're going to interpret it the way they want. And one lady got pissed. She's like, "Shame on you, Jeff Latham. I hope you're never in a place where you need a handout." And then somehow she spun it into, "And that SOB Donald Trump, our president." And so I look her up, and she was, she was a liberal, and then another guy, we won't name his name, Viviano, he got in there and started just jumping on it as well. He's like, I got handouts when I was growing up, and some of us weren't privileged growing up, and you calling me lazy? And it's almost like it spun like I was calling people lazy because they got handouts.
Yeah.
And then I just watched it just like start just boom, 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 get bigger and bigger and escalate. And I thought, man, and then I started feeling like I had to protect my identity because I'm a nice guy, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think lazy people, I think lazy people should work. And so then I changed the post. I said, correction, entitlement creates lazy people I'm not impressed with. You know, this happened about 2 o'clock in the day.
It's been up for a few hours.
It's been up for about 20 hours.
Yeah.
And I want to just kind of reiterate, you know, we gave out $40,000 or $50,000 last year to Sell a Home, Save a Child, and to the Front Row Foundation. I mean, we donate more money than a lot of people make in income, right? I mean, we are fucking generous. And I don't mean that to be egotistical, you know. I'm just telling you, like, we are very into giving people hand-ups effectively.
Yeah.
And so I guess where my mind was is I've created businesses, I have businesses where I've fed the squirrels, like I've given people money and I've watched them just get sedated because they have that consistent income. And I've watched their drive and their hunger just dissipate because they have a safety net that they know they're getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
And it drives me fucking crazy, you know, when I see people that just, they don't go out and do what they're capable of. They don't live up to their potential. So, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. So back to what happened is, then I went on an appointment, and the lady was so nice, and I was going to buy her house, and she works for the government and doing something with social services. And she's like,
"Oh, perfect, right?
I'm a friend request you on Facebook."
And that's the first thing on there.
As soon as I get in my truck, delete. But here's what happened in addition, though, is I started becoming non-productive because I was so worried.
You've written the comments?
It started consuming my energy and my focus, and I couldn't produce.
Yeah.
And I almost turned myself into a non-productive entrepreneur for a day. I actually did, because it zapped my focus, it zapped my presence, and it made me not feel good.
Yeah.
And because I was worried about how people feel about me. Like, did I come off as an asshole? And I started thinking about other people that I know that had handouts or hand-ups, if you will, and I was like, man, I know some really amazing people that had the right people in their life come and help them in time of need.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I learned was maybe just, don't kick the hornet's nest, and if you're going to, maybe try and be a little bit more clear on what you're saying. I don't know, it was interesting, because...
How much world of difference would it make, though, if you would have credited the rapper?
I actually took his link on YouTube and stuffed it in the comments. I mean, I was up early in the morning, even with Rudy. I'm like, well, I'm just talking about even like my children. Like, I don't go out of my way to give my children stuff. I make them fucking earn it, because I want them to go out and earn stuff. Like my father, when I wanted dirt bikes or cars or anything, he never gave them to me.
Yeah.
He said, you go earn it and I'll match you. And I would go do paper routes, I would go mow lawns, I would just go work so damn hard because I was driven by achieving what it is I wanted to create or have, do or have. And I would go work for it, and I would get it. And that's why I post big things like, I want a helicopter.
Yeah.
And it's not to be like, hey, look at me, I got a helicopter. It's the experience of flying. And if you've ever flown one, then you'd understand you'd want one. But also, in addition, is who you get to become on the way of the acquisition of that goal.
Yeah.
Because the Jeff Latham now can't buy a helicopter, but the Jeff Latham 2.0 will be able to go and pay cash for one. And it causes me to grow and get better at my craft and serve and help more people. And that is my form of contribution, is like I pick out big-ass mountains to climb, and I say, I'm going to go climb that mountain. I'm going to go run that Ironman. I'm going to go get that helicopter. And people sit back and they're like, yeah, right. And then I go do it, and they're like, fuck, he did it. And when people see me do that, then it gives them permission. They're like, well, if that guy can do it, then I can do it. He's nobody special.
Well, it gives you permission. It gives us, as a viewer, permission to be like, holy shit, he's right. I'll say, okay, so I'm going to take a quick timeout on this conversation. I'm talking with Jeff Latham. who everyone knows because I plug his website, even though I've been plugging it wrong this entire time, but he's been the sponsor of the show every single time. But huge inspiration, and I've known Jeff for 20 some odd years. You're my brother's best friend, and I partied naked on your pool table at the housewarming, the first house you ever bought, your first real estate experience. I'm not proud of that moment. But your social media, your everything has been really developed, in your business has developed hugely in the last, especially few years. And I think there's a lot of people in awe when I talk to other people, when I've interviewed other people and have had people on this podcast. They always ask me about you, because I do lead in. So indirectly, I hope I'm helping some of your business. Thank you for sponsoring it.
I bet. I appreciate the plugs.
Well, I appreciate the support, because this will be as big as you are in 10 years. I promise you.
It's already bigger. It's already happening.
But the point leading into that was your drive and your focus. And as a kid, you would save and your dad would match, and kind of get into that. I kind of want to hear a little bit of your real estate story. From how did you go from, we all know that devastation in 2008, we've seen that, we've heard you talk about that on Facebook, and I've seen you on a few different interview shows and everything that you've kind of gone into that, and we know what happened there, but the building blocks from that, you chose not to get a job.
Yeah.
You chose to stay the course, which is a very difficult decision. You had this dream. It's not going to be an easy decision. Your wife was driving a fucking Lexus with a pop-up navigation screen that was ridiculous.
In Infinity, right?
In those, yeah. Oh yeah, in Infinity. In 10 years ago, that was a totally rad new thing that every Honda has now. But that's the world you were in. Mm-hmm. How did you weather the storm?
How did I weather the storm? Well, weathering the storm, I didn't really weather it. I drank a lot. And I remember, 2008, I went from, making $180,000 a year, about 27 years old, to $45,000 a year in 2008. And it's kind of like when the tide shifts, right? There's just no movement. And no matter how hard you push, it's just like nothing was moving. And I remember I would go and stake out signs, find out what's your home worth. I did everything I could to figure out how to sell homes, because I ran out of friends to sell homes to, and I couldn't figure it out. And so I partied a lot. I remember laying on my back on my couch, just I felt defeated.
Yeah.
Right? Because no matter whatever I tried, I just couldn't figure it out. And and so what happened was, probably about a year into it, I had an email come across my email server that said, learn how to sell bank-owned properties. And that's the only properties that were selling back then. And so we flew to Florida to go learn. And there was a real estate conference there that we stayed after for. And there's people up there selling 300, 400, 500 homes a year. And I thought you're the best in the world if you're selling over 50, right? The most I ever sold was 37 on my own back in 07.
Yeah.
And so when it came time to hire the coach, they closed us on the sales side for coaching. I remember I had 2 credit cards maxed out, and they're each $20,000. So I thought, and I gave him my credit card, and there's just enough to pay for the coaching, which was $1,000 a month. And that's a big gamble. Fortunately, my wife was